Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today is National Grief Awareness Day. Hi, my name is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman. I'm an intuitive psychic medium here in the Sugar Land area. That's just outside of Houston. I work with my angels and guides to assist my clients in many areas of their lives, to bring them special messages from loved ones who have passed, to dialogue with their angels for guidance into their own situation, or to assist them with their own psychic abilities. If you like my content, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. August 30th is a day that our nation has set aside to kind of bring a spotlight in a weird sort of way into grieving. And grieving is something that I deal with many, many times in my business because a lot of times people are looking for that last connection to their loved one that's passed. Maybe it's a mother or father that's passed, a child that's passed, or sometimes it's just getting a deeper insight into a friend's passing or what's going on around them or was going on around them prior to them passing. But it could also mean the grief of job loss. It could be a grief of losing a relationship that meant a lot to them. Going through divorce or separation can make people grieve in many different ways. And I think that's the interesting part, is that everybody grieves in their own way, but they also grieve sometimes much faster than other people. Sometimes they move through the steps a little bit faster, or the stages a little bit faster, and sometimes they move through them a little bit slower. And that's something that I think where kind of our clairsensitive side comes out, is when someone is grieving, it's really hard for us to see that person in the grieving process, to see them crying or upset or almost the puddle stage. I say it's one of those, like, you're crying so much that you really can't do anything. You're overwhelmed with the energy. And to understand that's just how some people grieve, and they will continue to move through the process, but it takes time. And I think that's the interesting part. One of the things that I have noticed many, many times in my business, when someone has a loved one that passed, a spouse, a mother, a father, a child, a best friend, whatever it is, when someone like that passes, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to work through the grieving process. Doesn't mean they ever get over the process. It just means like they're able to kind of go on with life a little bit differently. When you're going through like a job loss or a relationship or divorce, sometimes that takes anywhere from probably like 18 months to about 3 years to kind of work through, especially if the divorce or the separation wasn't your idea, or it kind of hits you blindsided. You're more likely to take a little bit longer in that process. But there's a lot of stages that people go through when they're grieving. And it just really depends on how well you are equipped in your own emotional body to bring each stage forward. So kind of the stages are really quickly, is kind of like denial, kind of like overwhelming emotion. Like I said, that's more likely when you're going to hit those puddle stages of just like, I can't deal with anything. Everything kind of overwhelms me. Stage 2 is like anger, like I'm mad at them. I'm mad at God. I'm mad that they're gone. I'm mad that I didn't get to say I love you one more time. I'm mad about something. And that's kind of a normal process. Bargaining is kind of like during your grief, is kind of like feeling this vulnerable, like someone else is in charge, or you feel helpless. And it gives us many different ways to kind of look at the control of our lives and what's going on around us. Depression. When depression sets in, it's just one stage of grief, but it can be very debilitating. A lot of times people can't get out of bed or kind of get their energy going in the right direction, and that can be overwhelming as well, to kind of like add this up, or kind of, how do I do this, or how do I deal with this person being gone? Like, it's like you took off my right arm and now I can't do anything. And that's an interesting philosophy in a lot of this, is kind of like, how do you do this? How do you work through this? The stage 5 is kind of more the acceptance. It may not necessarily being happy or uplifting, but kind of like, I'm accepting that they've gone. I'm accepting that this relationship is over. I'm accepting that this has happened. And that can be a little bit easier for people to understand. One of the things I really tell people is, when someone close to you is going through this, the best thing you can do is just kind of listen, and just kind of allowing them to kind of dump that energy, not necessarily on you, but to dump it out of themselves, and kind of like, what are you mad about? What are you sad about? What are you, that sort of thing. And kind of giving it a voice can make them feel a lot better. Kind of reaching out to others. If you're going through something like this, reach out to other people in your neighborhood or your community, or even a counselor of some point, so you can kind of get that help that you really, really need. One of the things that I think is really important is kind of to deal with the practical side of it. Is someone taking care of the day-to-day needs that are around you? Especially when it first happens, that can be something like just overwhelming. A friend of mine had the loss of her mother, and I thought it was really interesting that her and her brother kind of kept up with each other in an interesting sort of way, to kind of like, have you taken a shower today? Have you gotten clean today? Have you gotten out of bed? And it kind of just spurred them to kind of go through the grieving process a little bit together, even though they were separated by lots and lots of miles. And so one of the things that's really important is to keep that in focus and to keep that in sight. Is it's a process, it's a journey. It's not just like, oh, I'm ready to let this go at any time. It makes it a little bit easier. Make sure you're searching for resources. There are many, many resources to reach out to during this time frame. Sometimes it's resources in having some friends bring over food from time to time, someone else to talk to, making sure that you're getting out of the house a couple of times a week, kind of that sort of thing can be really helpful. But also, if you've been the one who's lost somebody, make sure that you're asking people to do that, making sure you're asking people to keep an eye on you as you move through this process. And they don't need to check on you every day, but from time to time to kind of just check in to make sure that you're still doing okay. That's the best part of this. I thank you so much for joining me for National Grief Awareness Day, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.